It's Ken Harbaugh on the Midas Touch Network. Check out this clip of Donald Trump making whatever excuses he can for using Arlington National Cemetery as a campaign prop. At one point, he even blames the Gold Star family that was there with him.
We're so far above her on the internet.
But on that hallowed ground, should that they have put out the images of those?
I don't know what the rules and regulations are. I don't know who did it. And it could have been them. It could have been the parents. It could have been somebody.
It was your campaign's TikTok, though, that put out the video.
I really don't know anything about it. All I do is I stood there and I said, if you'd like to have a picture, we can have a picture. If somebody did it, this was a setup by the people in the administration that, Trump is coming to Arlington. That looks so bad for us.
Trust me when I say this. Veterans around the country are enraged. This message to Donald Trump from former Navy SEAL Dan Barkhuff just went super viral. Check it out. Dan joins me on the Ken Harbaugh Show right after.
My name is Dan Barkhuff. I served as a U.S. Navy SEAL with deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan and Africa. I'm here because Donald Trump thinks that Arlington National Cemetery, Section 60, is a place that he can use for campaign events and political activities, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting because that's where heroes are buried. Those people are not suckers and losers, Donald. Those people are champions. They're the best of my generation, and your disrespect of them and to their family is horrifying. You've destroyed everything you've touched in this country. You are a clown, and you are going to lose.
Dan Barkhuff, thanks for joining the Ken Harbaugh Show. We have been partners in crime for some time over at Veterans for Responsible Leadership, and you've been incredibly forceful in making the case that come November, Donald Trump is going to lose the veteran vote. I'm with you. I think it's going to happen too, but what are we basing that on?
So what happened in 2020 is there's a couple of polls with really kind of unclear methodology. There's a Military Times poll. There's a couple internal polls that we've had access to that show Trump got anywhere from at the high point 60, which underperforms Republican average, and at the low point down to 51, 49 for Trump versus Biden. Now, this is 2020. If Trump is going 50-50 roughly with Biden in 2020, that's before January 6th. That's before he stores top secret documents at Mar-a-Lago. That's before this botched, illegal and clearly unethical campaign appearance at Arlington National Cemetery. There's a lot of things that were not baked into that 2020 vote that now veterans are paying attention to. And it is very realistic and, in my opinion, likely that he's going to actually lose the veteran vote as the first Republican to lose the veteran vote really since Eisenhower. But clearly he's going to underperform Republican candidates for POTUS by a wide margin. He's going to be the worst Republican in terms of capturing the veteran and military vote, bar none, since Calvin Coolidge.
Just in my circles, the dam does seem to be breaking, especially when you're talking about the moral judgments and the long-awaited turn against Trump for his aspersions against veterans and his clear moral failings, and whatever doubt there was that he actually said not a sucker. Now we see what he says about Medal of Honor winners, treading on the graves of our buddies at Arlington, and people are coming around. Can you talk about not a sucker, those comments, and the fact that we are comparing the word of a 4-star general, gold star dad to a habitual liar?
Yeah, absolutely. So the suckers and losers story, when that came out, it was sourced basically to John Kelly. So for those who don't know, and a lot of people who are, I'm sure watching your show know exactly who John Kelly is and this sort of thing. But if you're not, John Kelly was a Marine Corps general. And so here's his background, okay? John Kelly started his service to our country, grows up in South Boston, joins the Merchant Marine back when he's second he turns 18. he's shipping beer into Vietnam to the GIs, right? He's on tankers going like around the world, unloading beer in Saigon. Okay, so he comes at, Vietnam War ends. He decides, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. So he joins the Marine Corps, becomes an officer. He takes part in many sort of, the brushfire wars of the 80s and 90s, leading up to the invasion of Iraq. Okay, so in Iraq, he's leading a division into Baghdad, and he famously says in Baghdad, he's asked some question by a reporter, "Hey, like, are the Marines going to get it done? Are you guys capable of?" And he's like, these are the people who did Iwo Jima. Baghdad ain't shit, right? And so he says Baghdad ain't shit, and takes Baghdad, right? This is a guy who then his next stop, after CENTCOM and Combat Command, he's a general in charge of Southcom, all right? So Southcom, they're running Guantanamo Bay. John Kelly was in charge of Gitmo when Obama was president, when, there's an attempt to slow it down. John Kelly, when he leaves Gitmo, gives a speech to his command, which is captured on tape, and you can find it, where he talks about, essentially like how much he hates the press, and, the press is getting this story wrong and we're doing things. His MAGA bona fides are impeccable. And John Kelly is the guy who implements and defends publicly, separating migrants at the border and kids in cages, right? That's John Kelly. John Kelly implemented that and did that, okay? This is the most MAGA guy you're gonna find anywhere. His son was killed in combat in Afghanistan, and he goes with Donald Trump to Arlington National Cemetery. He talks to Trump. He's literally standing on his son's grave, and John Kelly has confirmed multiple times on the record, the MAGA champion, the guy who ran Gitmo, took a division into Baghdad and is literally in charge of kids in cages. That guy says Trump said, "I don't understand what's in it for them. These guys are losers." Like, right? I mean, why, under any set of circumstances, would he make that up? Right? This is a guy who is MAGA to the core, and then the one thing that, pardon the pun, trumps his MAGA, instincts is he lost his son in combat, right? And he's a Gold Star dad, and he's like, I can't let this go any longer. I mean, so who do we believe, John Kelly or Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump. I mean, come on, guys. Like, everyone knows Donald Trump lies. If he's talking, he's lying. It's porn stars, right? It's everything he's done is just bereft, completely full of falsehoods. So John Kelly is clearly a reliable source. And, the MAGA heads and the extremely online incel MAGA people are like, oh, John Kelly is, full of shit. I mean, look at the guy's resume. Why would he possibly make that up? Clearly, Donald Trump said those things. So, that's kind of the origin of the suckers and losers story. And I mean, if that's really how he views service people, if that's really how he views, the 18-year-old kids who are on Paris Island on the footsteps right now, or the 19-year-old kids who are in Syria right now, they're a bunch of suckers. I mean, that just is, there's no way for them to spin that in which, it's going to make veterans vote for Trump. He's going to lose a veteran vote.
Yeah, I think the breaking point for a lot of my buddies is around the notion of sacrifice. It's not policy. It's not even Ukraine. It's just a gut feeling that this man, the former president, doesn't understand what true sacrifice for one's country or for a cause greater than oneself, frankly, what that kind of sacrifice really means. It was obviously alluded to in the not a sucker comment, but then the Medal of Honor comments,
yeah,
that was pretty indicative. And then finally the thumbs up at Arlington National Cemetery. There's just no conception of what real sacrifice means from Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's uniquely uncomfortable around it, right? I mean, he not only does he not think highly of us, his brain, he cannot understand.
That's it.
Yeah, he that part of his brain is broke, right? Like he cannot understand people doing something, and I'm not even talking about like mom, dad, apple pie, and baseball, right? I'm talking about like helping an old lady across the street, right? Like Donald Trump would never do that, right? I mean, he has no instinct where it's not just about him and himself and how he can get ahead. And the military is, at the end of the day, the military is based on the idea, and these are not my thoughts. It's something that our mutual friend Sebastian Younger has written about in his great book War. Um, the military is based on this idea that if you do what is best for the team, you're more likely to win and more people are going to live. And if you do what's best for yourself in any given moment, uh, but it may not be the best thing for the team, you're likely to lose and more people are going to die. And that is the whole thing, right? Like that's why we have awards. That's why we have a Congressional Medal of Honor, is because people want to be, it's noble, it's valorous. But I mean, there's this Napoleon quote about how men would, do crazy things just for a ribbon, right? And it's sort of true. And it's not the ribbon itself. What people, when people are awarded for some heroic action, it's because they didn't want to look bad. They wanted to help their friends, and they felt that they had a duty, and they felt that if they didn't do that duty, that their friends were in danger. And nothing about Donald Trump's entire life could be further from that. His brain does not compute with unselfish thinking.
Tell me what Vets for Responsible Leadership has in store and how people can help, especially military family members and vets.
Absolutely. So we are rightfully going to champion an initiative called hashtag Not a Sucker. And please come to our website, vfrl.org. What we're trying to do is to get veterans who are just enough is enough. And we've got Republican veterans, we've got Democrat veterans, we've got Green veterans who all are saying, hey, enough is enough. I am done with this guy. It's time to turn the page on Donald Trump and his effect on America. And what we're doing is I want videos. We need videos. So I posted mine up yesterday, or I posted a video up yesterday. Send us your 15-second, 30-second video. Send it to vfrl.org of you saying, hey, I am a U.S. military veteran, or I am a Gold Star family member, or my brother was in the Marine Corps, or my grandfather served in World War II, and he wasn't a sucker. I'm not a sucker. I'm not a loser, and I'm voting for Kamala Harris, because that is the next step in America moving towards its promise at its birth. Right? Is we have got to get rid of this guy who cares only for himself and nothing at all for any of his countrymen.
We'll put a link in the show notes. Dan, thanks for joining us. This campaign is going to be a huge success. I can just feel it. And you're right, Donald Trump is going to lose the veteran vote.
Awesome, Ken. Thanks for having me.